Hello, this is Wmpyr. I was asked a question about what kind of FMA training do I do on a daily basis. So I'm here to go ahead and answer that question. Okay, so first off, um, we're pretty much going to start with the wrist circles. My teacher's teacher from the Philippines he said that this is super important to do and you should do it every day. And yeah, exactly what he said. I'm going to parrot the same thing. I believe there's a lot of reasons why this is so important. And one of it is like if you get this down really, really well, and the whole idea is to keep a closed fist and tight and solid closed fist as much as possible while you do this, okay? Because it's easier to make the twirling circular motions with your hand open. But if you learn to do it closed, and it takes time, but if you could do it closed, then that means it's going to be that much harder for your grip to be compromised. So the bad guys cannot disarm you, or it makes it very hard for them to take your weapon away from you. That just makes sense to me. That is super awesome. And then as a bonus, it makes it hard for people to wrist lock you and stuff. So yeah, that is number one. That's something you should do every day. And I'm not like super good at it, and I can't say that I do a ton of it, but it is something that I have kept going, um, at my own pace kind of thing. The next one is, I think is related, it's forearm training. So you're just rotating the stick, go like this, back and forth, back and forth. Do this for several minutes, and you'll feel your forearm get trained. It gets stronger and developed, and it's another thing that I like to keep doing. So then the next one is skin conditioning, which is something I don't do anymore. I used to. You could get one stick or you could get multiple sticks in one hand. So I could have 2 or 3 sticks in this hand. And I punch it, boom, boom, with my knuckles to make my knuckles stronger. The other one is my shins. I hold it out and I kick it with my shin to make my shins harden and condition. You could also hit your stomach area, make your abs stronger, boom, boom, boom. You could also practice elbow strikes on this thing as well. I focused, me personally, on knuckles and especially shins, just because from my Thai boxing background, it was the shins is just easier to do. Like I said, I don't do it anymore. I have no desire to Thai box with anybody anymore. So, but for those of you that are, you're still at that phase, I recommend it. I thought it was great training. Next is now I'm doing stuff in the air, and flow is the first thing that I like to start off with. Flow training is basically you're just free flowing, okay? You're just practicing whatever techniques, and you're going nice and easy at a relaxed state. Flow, remember, is one of the most important principles, or in my case, it was taught as the most important principle in Filipino martial arts. And you're just flowing, from technique to technique, random, just doing whatever feels good. It's very meditative, and it's nice. And when I look up online, seeing other people train in Filipino martial arts, 90 to 100% of the people are doing this. And, so it's very common. I make sure to do it too. The next one, which is not common, is power, okay? And this is a lesson that I learned from watching the Dog Brothers instructional videotapes. And, they were saying that it's all nice to have all this fancy techniques and stuff, but at the end of the day, your base needs to be power, because that is what's going to command respect in combat. So you definitely make sure to put in power. And I do practice that. Like, you could have your number one strike, and you just practice that over and over, full swing with power. And, I don't do like everything. I just do 1 or 2 at a time and just, put in the repetitions. And then I like to balance it out, because, if you just do one arm, one side, like your right hand, then it's kind of like a tennis player, and I like to balance it out. So I don't like the way it feels. So I do it with my left hand as well. And make sure it's nice and balanced because it is hard and harsh on your body. So you got to be careful with that. I mean, I'm talking full swing. If you're doing it indoors, definitely be careful. It's so easy to take out a ceiling fan or a TV or a window or the wall. So be super, super careful if you are doing power training indoors. You want a shorter, lighter stick in that case. Next is the shadow boxing, right? So the shadow boxing is now more technical and it's more speed in that sense. Now I'm thinking of actual combinations that I'm going to use in a real life situation. And I follow the 4 ranges of combat. So in other words, the way I do the angles of attack and the way that I do Heaven 6 is not the same for long range to medium range. Those are going to be 2 different, even though it's the same techniques, they look and they are different from each other. And same with close range and ground range, okay? So yeah, the shadow boxing part, it's definitely faster and more force put in than flow. Okay, and it's choppy, I don't care, because these are, like I said, combinations I'm using, and I will actually imagine an opponent when I'm doing this kind of shadow boxing or shadow stick fighting type of training. All right, and then now that I've done that, the next thing is I'm going more and more realistic in a way. And so now I take out the tires. I have 2 tires, one big one, and I have a wheelbarrow one, which is a much smaller one. And now I can practice some contact. So I'm still using the sticks, okay? And I actually make some contact. And this could be a specific technique, okay? 1 or 2 techniques that I just want to specifically feel the contact and work on, you know, on very specific techniques. And I would just do that on the tire for a little bit. And then I then move on to knife. For those of you that are watching this video and you want to do the same thing, this is where you go to a training knife. For me, I go to a real knife. And that's just because I put in the time and I've earned my way to a real knife. And so I go to the real knife at this point, and that's what I do on the tires, okay? Because the tire is the only thing that can handle that. And my whole purpose here is I'm trying to make the blade smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller. The reason for that is to force accuracy, okay? In a real life situation, I probably will have a smaller blade, not a huge Bowie knife. I wish, but probably not. And so with this smaller blade, I don't plan to try to, okay, that's the target on the opponent and that's what I'm going to hit, and try to make sure I hit that. In a real life situation, that's probably not the way that I'm going to be fighting. But if I am stuck in that kind of game where I have to do that, I want to be able to do it. And I want to be able to do it 10 times better than my opponent. So that's why I'm putting in the time. This is not the most efficient way to knife fight, but being able to do that, because it may happen and it's not what I want, but being able to handle that, I think is very realistic in a way. So that's why I trained that, okay? And then the last thing is now I got to go to stickman, because for the final part in Filipino martial arts, there is the trapping element, and then there is also the lock flow. So for those 2, I go to stickman, and I work on very, very specific techniques that I would use for me in a real life situation, and I just do those over and over just to keep them sharp and just to keep the muscle memory there. So I just practice that over and over and over on stickman. Honestly, it's like 4 techniques for trapping, you know, and for the lock flow. I mean, I don't even know, maybe 4 techniques. And then there's a couple of locks that I could do with the stick onto stickman, and that's about it. So it's really not a whole lot. I'm just doing the same moves over and over again, keeping it real simple. So that's it for now. Thank you for viewing, and take care, folks.